while we're loading up, we'll introduce ourselves. My name's Corwin.
I'm Griffin. I'm Luke. And that's Mike.
I'm Mike.
And, we'd like to welcome you guys and thank you for coming out and seeing our presentation of 8 weeks worth of work using the design thinking process to innovate that next generation consumer experience. And we put a little video together to help everyone get in the same mindset and understand what someone in our research group might go through when they're setting up a dentist appointment.
Yo, morning, Andre.
Morning, Griff.
My tooth is killing me, dude. Do you know where to get this runner?
No idea. You should Google it.
So that video is just coming from a lot of information that we got through our empathy interviews. We went around to different college campuses in the Boston area and talked to over 100 people to kind of get a good feeling on what 20 some age group was thinking about healthcare. We learned a lot.
One of the interesting overviews that we got from a lot of the students that we interviewed was that they just generally felt disconnected with their health, be it with healthcare or just their physical health or mental health in general. A lot of that we got from basically them not physically being active in their healthcare, so maybe their parents do all their work for them, or B, they do have one-on-one, but they're just like so overwhelmed with the system that they're not apt to go out and actually initiate a conversation with the doctor or get the care that they need.
We also interviewed someone who's in the process of going to physical therapy, and they really weren't enjoying their physical therapy, but the more they got to know their physical therapist and the more and more they went and they had a connection with him, the more comfortable they became.
Overall, we learned a lot, and we realized that no matter what we created through this process, we had to set down some principles that would kind of illustrate what something successful would be in the end. And we needed that next generation consumer experience to be first and foremost personal and comfortable for the user to deal with. And it also had to be efficient, clear, easy, and informative. And an overarching theme throughout all the interviews is that young people really don't care about their health. The only time that people were going to the doctors is when they had an emergency or when their parents had already set it up for them. And they didn't really have that connection with healthcare.
So like Corwin said, we met a lot of people that really didn't care about their health journey, and our goal was to change that. So our first prototype was an app, and half the app aimed to help the user keep track of their medical history and their and keep track of their health journey. So it keeps track of it through their history, statistics, and their progress. And the other half was aimed to help simplify finding a doctor. So matching a doctor with your symptoms. And through field testing, we brought this out and we tested it with a lot of people. We got an overwhelming feedback that half of it was not needed. A lot of people compared this half to Fitbit, and when we asked them about Fitbit, they said they either rarely used it or never used it. So from that feedback, we realized that we were trying to solve the wrong problem. So we took a step back and we thought about what really matters to people. And we focused on the ease and accessibility of communication between doctors and patients. We also wanted to make it a lot less stressful on the user. So by doing that, making it a more personable experience, so less about money and more about the patient.
So taking a lot of what we learned from our first prototype, we took that and put it into a second prototype, focusing more on the doctor-patient communication experience this time around, and less on all that stat tracking. What we're also really looking at was in a world where everything has this instantaneous feedback, be it Amazon Prime or something like Grubhub, where you're literally getting things delivered to your door at the click of a mouse, why can't healthcare kind of have that same functionality? We realized with that we're going after this really comfortable feeling, like what makes a person comfortable approaching healthcare. And in that, we kind of realized that we're going for this hometown feeling, what you get, that feeling when you're at home and you're comfortable working around your healthcare, just working with things that you're knowing in general. And from that, we really wanted to dive into what makes something hometown in terms of healthcare. And to do that, we interviewed a few students around campus.
What did you say you miss most about home?
Surf.
Surfing. It's interesting.
One thing most about the change, not as many cows.
Not as many cows.
Just sort of out of the city, very well.
I'd say adjusting to the workload.
What did you like most about coming to the city?
Freedom. Like sort of being able to step away from the family a little bit.
It's quite a drastic difference from what my town is.
Yeah.
It's nice to get a little bit more stuff going around me.
It was definitely a little bit of culture shock.
Caring, friendly, reliable, loyal.
We go to the doctor all the time. We feel like they truly value your health. I broke my teeth in half, and it was a physical trauma.
So yeah, I got a concussion about 2 weeks ago.
Not only was it a stress of trying to find people to get rid of everything, but I was already agitated because my face was pulsating.
When you want to set up an appointment with them, what do? Call your mom. Your mom doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I call them all.
You go to the doctors with your parents, they take care of all that stuff. You don't have to worry about having the paperwork because your parents are usually nice enough to do it for you.
When you first came here, was it difficult finding a doctor or any sort of?
absolutely. I mean,
Because it was a new doctor, I was kind of like a little nervous to be
yeah.
like, all right, well, you're doing this differently.
waiting for a root canal. Like it seemed like everything was done right. I'm not a root canal expert.
But different. I sort of had to go through the whole relearning person, and she doesn't. She didn't know how I felt originally, so.
Issue, and then they did the operation, and the operation went really poorly, and I had to get second and third operation in California.
Did you feel like the people weren't being helpful, or is just that the system itself was?
The system itself. The system itself. The people weren't disrespectful or anything like that.
Would have rather waited in pain to go home to my normal dentist than to deal with anyone else. So we learned a lot from those epic interviews. We learned that, we have all this freedom to be independent and set up our own appointments. But if you're not comfortable and secure in doing that, we'd rather not waste our time. We go back to what's familiar. And we decided there needed to be another way for someone who's new to the area to start finding a doctor that they can build a personal relationship with. And in order to do that, we didn't want to jump right back into the application platform as we did with our first two prototypes, because we realized that might not be the platform that people actually use to set up appointments. So we sent out a survey, and with a strong favoring for websites is what people use to set up an appointment with their doctor. And that's the direction that we started to head.
So for our next two prototypes, we did something called A/B testing. And for those of you who don't know, A/B testing is when you take two versions of a website and basically compare them side by side with the same audience and the same amount of exposure. So we did that by handing out flyers and doing Facebook posts for both websites, and we made sure we put the flyers in the same similar locations, like Northeastern or Boston University, and yeah. And so basically, the first website was Find a Doctor, and Find a Doctor took all the content and workflow from the Blue Cross Blue Shield website, but stripped Blue Cross Blue Shield brand, so that way there was no bias. So when you enter the website, it is the exact same as the Blue Cross Blue Shield content. So let's pretend that I am trying to find a new primary care physician at findadoctor.com. So I would scroll down, and I'd be immediately given 3 options. And I'm looking for a primary care provider, so I would click on Find Medical Care. And it gives you another set of options, and I would be clicking on the top primary care provider. And then you're given an option to scroll through about 100 different doctors with no faces and not much information. So as you can see, a lot of this website is really an overwhelming amount of options with pretty much 0 personal connection.
So the other half of the test, we wanted to test like the personal touch and move away from like the systematic approach. So we created Healthy Match. This is our intro page, and it gives you a nice little bio of like what we're about and what we want to accomplish. And this nice little character makes it pretty personal and comfortable, I guess. So when you enter the page, you'll be prompted with a bunch of doctor profiles. So you can see like a little bit about what they are, like who they're about. And so if you click on one of them, you'll be taken to like their personal page, where it's like the whole about me, their specialties, like where they went to school. And the biggest thing we found is that people feel very uncomfortable if they don't speak the language in a doctor's office, so they just will sit there and not really ask any questions or tell them their concerns. So like their language spoken was a big part of like their profiles. And then like, to add the more personal touch, we add like a say hi button, so it would be a direct link to like their email or their phone number or something, some way you can contact them.
And there's a couple laptops floating around if you're interested in.
Yeah, there's one right there, and I think you feel free to.
So as we're going through that A/B testing, we're also looking strongly towards the analytics of the website, that being how many unique visitors we're getting for each, what was the popular content, and other things such as if they're looking on a mobile device, they're looking on their computer. So we really found that was interesting with Healthy Match was that, of course, you're prompted with that intro page when you log on. That's the first thing on the page. But we found that that was almost on par with the amount of users as people looking at the matches. So that told us that people were reading through that, they're interested enough that they wanted to actually enter the site and look more. And going through it, you can see that the chunks are pretty evenly spread out, meaning that the users that did want to look further into it, they were looking through mostly the entire website and just trying to gain a better understanding and really posing an interest there. Find a Doctor had a similar workflow, but a little more stunted in terms of, you can see that at least almost half that chart is just the intro page, meaning that people logged on, saw those first few options, and then just said forget about it and didn't bother diving deeper.
And just to build a little bit off of what Mike was talking about, this A/B testing gave us a lot of results, but it really spoke to us on the personal connection. That's what caused people, that's what we were assuming with the data, is what caused people to dive deeper and dig deeper into all the profiles.
You'll see too that we looked strongly towards numbers, just people in general, how many people were visiting these websites. It was really interesting, like we've said before, that we gave both these websites the same exact exposure. We didn't favor one over the other. And the fact that about 95% of that, the traffic through them was organic, meaning that we didn't go out to our friends and say, hey, check out this project that we're doing, or telling our family about it. We just sent out those flyers, we put out a Facebook ad campaign. And the fact that I'm still getting emails, like, as of yesterday, of people liking the page that is randomly throughout the greater Boston area is kind of just showing that there is an interest for people wanting more communication for their doctors. And also just the fact that we have 71 people as of when this chart was created for Healthy Match that logged onto the site, looked through it, and 38 for Find a Doctor shows that people want to have that communication. And the fact that Healthy Match had 71 versus 38 is just saying that the design principles that we set out to tackle with this were really speaking to people.
As John spoke about in some of their research even, they know there is a lot of applications to find a doctor. But we kind of realized that it might be a lot more about finding, less about finding the doctor, more about finding the doctor that you connect with. And on top of that personal connection, we also realized that people might want more than just a bio and a photo. Is that enough to really build a personal connection? Maybe we could go deeper with that.
So we wanted to test the personal connection not only through the consumer point of view, but through the physician point of view. So we interviewed a doctor, Dr. Juliana Simonetti with the Harvard Vanguard Medical Group. She's a great woman. She told us that the personal connection is just as important as any other part of the job. So she'll even go so far out of her way to rearrange her office or hire a scribe so she can maintain that eye contact with the customer. And she said that like a lot of people have started filming videos, like profile videos of their doctors and putting them on their website, so people know who they're gonna go see. They don't, like, they're not gonna be surprised at who is gonna be at the office or anything like that. So she said there needs to be more transparency, and like the first step needs to be much easier for the physician.
So throughout this whole process of researching, prototyping, and testing, we learned a lot about healthcare. We learned a lot about consumer experience. And our big takeaways were, when all of these parties want to do their job successfully, there needs to be an open line of communication. Patients get upset with doctors if they're late for an appointment, but if the patient doesn't understand or communicate with the doctor and know what's going on in their day, there's reasons behind that. And in order to open up those lines of communication to make that consumer experience really successful for all the parties, people need to feel comfortable with talking to each other. And that's what we aim at with improving Healthy Match. I started to do some more research on the healthcare and the doctor's perspective on what you could do and add to Healthy Match or take away from Healthy Match that would benefit them in the relationship. It should be a really balanced party, or a balanced relationship between all three parties for the machine of healthcare to work successfully. Thank you very much.
Questions? Yes.
Can you, the question is about the matches. Was there some sort of questionnaire that asked about me? I just saw the profile page. I'm assuming that was the user that said student, I forget what it said. Picture of a girl, student, majoring in, whatever, that was the user for this. So before you show matches, are you asking questions about me and what's important to me?
So our primary idea, right after
Well, not
this-
me, because I'm a little over 26.
We realized that people wanted that personal connection. We came up with the idea of building a profile that could match you. Basically like a Tinder for doctors is where the idea came from. And being able to test out your doctor. And let's say you don't have a good relationship with them, you can go on and find another doctor that maybe you could build something with. But we also realized that we wanted to test something that we could get feedback that was usable from. So we started out with just trying to get the personal feedback. But the site was originally thought up to have a profile where your former doctor could also recommend you doctors in the new area if they knew one. And you would have a profile that you would fill out that would help match you with doctors that you're compatible with.
Like if we were to do a second iteration of this website, you'd probably, the first thing you would do when you enter, you'd be instructed to fill out information about yourself, what you like to do, your medical history and stuff like that.
And
That'll
that,
connect you.
and that can be supplemented by information that your doctor has given the site as well, for your permission.
And then just an observation, I am really impressed about the testing with physicians. And I'm not sure if that's because you picked up on our relationship with our members is important. Our relationship with our provider community is incredibly important too. And as a business, we're always trying to make sure that whatever we put out there for our members is, not something that's controversial for doctors. So that was very impressive. And then the sort of culturally sensitive, you mentioned language, but I'm presuming other things like, sensitive to specific conditions or LGBT or, those kinds of things would be impressive too.
What role do you think not having an insurance brand on the website played? You mentioned that you kind of scrubbed any type of brand from, obviously aside from the brand of the website.
Well, one of our first empathy interviews, Matt told us to stay away from the Blue Cross Blue Shield, and some of us tried the Blue Cross Blue Shield, to say it, and people just didn't want to really hear about it. They didn't really care about the healthcare. I feel like there's such a stigma that once they heard it was Blue Cross Blue Shield, they were just like, oh no.
Yeah, like if someone had a bad experience with Blue Cross Blue Shield, then they would immediately see a website that had to do with them, and they would just throw it out the window. So this really gave it a fair shot compared to the Healthy Match.
Thank you.
Right, it's just interesting time.